At every stage of our lives, we make decisions that profoundly impact the lives of the people we're going to become. Then, when we become those people, we're not always thrilled with the decisions we've made. For example, young adults pay good money to get tattoos removed that teenagers paid good money to get. Middle-aged adults rush to divorce people that young adults rush to marry, and older-aged adults work hard to lose what middle-aged adults work hard to gain. Psychologist Dan Gilbert asked the question, why do we make decisions that our future selves so often regret? Dr. Gilbert thinks one reason is that we have a fundamental misconception about the power of time. We all know that the rate of change slows over the human lifespan. Our children seem to age by the minute, but our parents seem to age by the year. So what's the magical point where change goes from a gallop to a crawl? For most of us, it's now, wherever now happens to be. All of us are walking around with an illusion that our personal history has just come to an end, that we've just recently become the people that we're always meant to be and will be for the rest of our lives. So let's talk about some data to back up that claim. There's a study of change in personal values over time. There are 3 values: honesty, pleasure, and success. We all have these values, but we know that the balance of these values shifts over time. So how does it do so? Dr. Gilbert and other psychologists asked thousands of people. They asked half to predict how much they would change in the next 10 years, and half to tell them how much they have changed in the last 10 years. This allowed them to do an interesting analysis. They were able to compare the predictions of, say, 18-year-olds to those of the 28-year-olds, and they could do that throughout the lifespan. So here are their results. They found that change slows as we age, but not nearly as much as we think. From 18 to 68 in their data set, everyone vastly underestimated how much change they would experience in the next 10 years. They called this the end of history illusion. Now, it's not just values. For example, personality. Psychologists found that there are 5 fundamental dimensions of personality: neuroticism, openness to experience, agreeableness, extroversion, and conscientiousness. So remember that what Dr. Gilbert and the other psychologists found is that the rate of change slows, but not nearly as much as we think. It's also not just ephemeral things like value and personality. For example, you can ask about likes and dislikes and basic preferences. You can say, name your best friend, your favorite vacation, your favorite hobby, or your favorite kind of music. Everyone can name these things. So Dr. Gilbert asked half of the people to tell him if they think that would change in the next 10 years, and half to tell him if that did change in the last 10 years. People predicted that their best friend now will be their best friend in 10 years, or their favorite vacation now is one they'll really enjoy in 10 years. But people who are 10 years older said, actually, that has really changed. So, does this really matter? Is this just a misprediction that doesn't have any consequences? It actually matters quite a bit, and here's an example why from Dr. Gilbert. He asked people how much they'd pay to see their current favorite musician perform 10 years from now. On average, people said they would pay $129 for that ticket. Then he asked them how much they'd pay to see their favorite musician from 10 years ago perform today. Most people said about $80. In a perfectly rational world, this would be the same number. But we overpay for the opportunity to indulge our current preferences because we overestimate their stability. So why does this happen? It has to do with the ease of remembering versus the difficulty of imagining. Most of us remember who we were 10 years ago, but we find it really hard to imagine who we're going to be 10 years from now. And so we mistakenly assume that because we can't imagine it, it's just likely not to happen. The bottom line is, time is a powerful force. It transforms our preferences, reshapes our values, and alters our personalities. Only when we look backwards do we realize how much change actually happens in a decade. It's as if the present is a magic time. It's the moment where we finally become ourselves. Human beings are works in progress that mistakenly think they're finished. What I want you to remember is the person you are now is as temporary as all the people you've ever been. The only constant in our life is change.